Hey guys, there's this thing going on in Canada right now about the minimum wage and how they want to raise it to $15 an hour in Ontario. And the Star just recently wrote an article about it, saying how a lot of CEOs have been raking in like record profits, and they can afford to pay workers a fair wage, and et cetera, et cetera. And it's like what people fail to realize is that, when a CEO makes a lot of money, the reason they're getting paid that much is because they're bringing in the company that amount of profits, right? Like the 8 million, 10 million that they're getting paid is already factored in before a lot of the profits even come in, right? Because they're like, oh, you have a supply of CEOs. You got 10 CEOs to choose from. One of them is worth 1 million, one of them is worth 5, one of them is worth 10, right? The one who's worth 1 million is going to increase your corporation, your profits by, I don't know, 50 million. The one who's worth 5 million will increase it by 100 million, and the one who's worth 10 will increase it by, I don't know, 1 billion, right? So which one is a better investment? You're going to spend 10 million to get one, so then you can increase your profits by like tenfold, and then thus you can also hire a lot more employees and put a lot more people to work, right? So it's not a bad thing that CEOs get paid so much money, and it's actually a good thing, right? It's not bad. You want a good CEO to grow your company and have jobs available for you to fucking work, right? And a lot of the things they're talking about, how wages have not been increasing for years, etc. Well, you just really have to look at supply and demand a lot of the times for that. And if you look at a lot of the low skilled jobs like that are being in Canada and whatnot, a lot of them are immigrants that, like, when I go to Tim Hortons, when I go to certain stores, it's all immigrants from another country, right? So instead of continuously importing low skilled laborers, which keeps wages stagnant, how about we reduce immigration a lot, right? Because there's a lot of confusing information going on around, like, okay, either we have to have less babies, that people are saying, like, oh, for the environment, for this and that, but at the same time they're like, okay, we need more people to run our economy, etc., etc. So instead of so like, which one is it? Do we need more people? Do we need to have less kids? I think it's usually, well, the way it usually goes is like, okay, we need to have less kids, but then everybody else in other countries can have as many kids as they want, and then they can bring them here, and then increase our labor forces. So then we don't actually have better wages, because it's like, this is supply and demand. Like, if you have an excess of low skilled workers, the corporations will not pay you a lot of money, right? Like, what incentive do they have to pay you more money, right? And raising the minimum wage $15 an hour, right? It's like, I don't know, 11 or something. It's different in different provinces. Like, between like 10 and $11. Like, what about all the people who are making like 15.50 an hour or 16 an hour, right? Like, their wage isn't going up accordingly to yours either. So it's like they kind of get screwed too. It really doesn't incentivize them to work much harder, right? If like, they worked their way up to making 15 or 16, and now you're just kind of taking it away. And you think by raising it to 15, all these other costs and prices of everything else won't go up, because rent and food and Loblaws, all these things that you want to increase, force them to pay more money, they're going to put that cost onto the customer. If you think they're going to take a lesser of a cut, just because you write an article saying, oh, they could pay you more, doesn't mean they will. It doesn't mean they will. They're just going to either downsize their staff, and they're going to automate more. Like, especially grocery stores. Have you been in any grocery stores lately? Like, half of it is automated already. You're just going to increase the automation, and more people are going to be out of work. And then, see, that just plays into their whole basic income stuff later on. So then it could put everybody on basic income, etc. And it's like, granted, I think basic income is slightly better than the welfare system that we have right now, but that's essentially what we're moving towards. It's like, we everybody in all countries should probably just have less kids. Like overpopulation is a problem. And if you have too many people in your country and not enough jobs, what happens, right? Not many good things happen. So one of the main factors, I think, is just we have too many fucking people, right? We shouldn't be trying to increase our population so dramatically, because this is having a direct effect to our low-skilled laborers, our low-skilled workers in Canada and in other countries. We have lots of poor people here already that we need to take care of. We don't need to import more, right? And we still import a lot of other immigrants too that are like doctors, etc. And like sometimes we need those too. But at the same time, that's creating brain drain from those countries. So yeah, sure, we get doctors and we get all these things, but now in India and all these other countries, now they don't have as many doctors. Now they have a shortage of doctors. And now a lot of the smartest people from those countries are leaving and coming to our country, and now they're enriching our economies. So, it's not really good for them either. Sometimes it's better to leave people in their own countries so then they could make that country better, right? Instead of just everybody leaving, right? So, yeah, I don't think this minimum wage thing is going to be good. It's just going to increase automation. It's going to, what about the people? They even brought up an article, there's a lot of small business owners that's going to hurt. Because if you have 3 staff and now you got to raise your minimum wage to $15, you're going to have to downsize, right? You're going to have to fire at least one person. And all this is going to do is going to help monopolize bigger companies, right? Because they can afford to pay this shit. They can afford to automize. They can afford to continue their business with the regulations that you're putting in place. But the smaller companies, smaller businesses will not be able to handle it. And now the only businesses that are going to be around are Walmarts, are big box stores. So if that's what you want to do, then increasing the minimum wage, through the government and not through natural means, not through the regular economic means or through the free market, then you're going to have these pushbacks, right? For every action you have, there's going to be a reaction. So that's why you got to kind of like let things take on their own course. And, like I said, the only reason a lot of the wages are not raising is because of government intervention. It's people importing tons of people in our country. It's like trade policies. There's all these different factors that go into why we're not making more money and why our wages aren't raising. And it's not just because companies or corporations are evil, because yes, corporations always want to make a profit and they're always competing with other people, right? And this is another thing not taken into consideration is like, yes, they can pay us more, but they're also competing with people in other markets. So by them paying us more and then etc., they're not going to be as competitive against people in outside markets. So that's why they're not really going to take a huge pay cut. They're not going to change too much other than kind of screw you, or they're going to build more factories in other countries like India and China, and they're gonna ship jobs away because it's cheaper to build there. See, like people in our countries, in Western countries, we're too expensive to hire. That's one of the problems too. We're too expensive, and that's an issue. It's like, yeah, we don't want everybody to be paid like pittance and then not get through life, but things used to cost a lot cheaper, like even 20 years ago when I was a little kid, I could buy a lot more with my dollar, right? And our dollar has been devalued, and that's through what, again, governments, inflation. It's through printing of money that makes our money essentially valueless over time. Our money used to have a lot more value. Now it has practically none. And that's not because of just corporations and this is because of government intervention into our monetary policies and going up on like the fiat currency, right? Because, Keynesian economics is not sustainable. The guy who came up with it was some gay dude who's like, it doesn't have to last forever because humans die off. He knew that the system is unsustainable. Look at the United States already. They're $22 trillion in debt, and they continuously want to raise the debt ceiling. Like, you can't keep kicking a can down the road. Eventually you got to pay your debts. Eventually you got to get your finances in order, and you can't just keep putting band-aids on a problem. This is what minimum wage essentially is. It's just a band-aid, because it's a sign that your economy is going through difficulties, as in like there's something wrong. The way you're structuring your economy is faulty. That's why raises aren't raising, and putting just having the government putting band-aids in is just prolonging the issue. It's going to make it worse down the road. So that's all I pretty much had to say on the minimum wage. If you like my content, subscribe and have a great day.